Hello, fear the me, cat here, and welcome to the 20th episode of my Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Masterquest Let's Play. So, we're looking for pose now. I think that if you look directly at them, they move out of the paintings. I think it needs to be from sort of directly looking at them, so not it's to your right and you can sort of see it, but you're not facing them. I think for some reason they need to be facing you before that happens. Anyway, if you hear it laugh, that means that it's spotted you and it's moved to a different painting. Although they're not really paintings, I suppose, they're just places for them to hide in, otherwise the painting wouldn't have completely disappeared then. So I wasn't quite sure what to keep in with this episode and what to get rid of, or why it burns the paintings. Anyway, yeah, I hope that I've kept in the things that demonstrate that I'm not trying to make myself look like I'm better at this than I am, because I want to have the conviction on my side that I'm not pretending to be better than I am at this. And that's why I normally point it out if I've cut out a bit where I died as well. I have died many times. Not a sentence you hear very often, but in this case it's true. Yeah, at the same time, I've tried not to include anything that's just boring and you watching me do the same thing over and over. Like, I could have cut out about a minute earlier on where I couldn't actually find the pose, but that didn't seem right. Try not to get too close to them when you're firing the arrows at them, otherwise they'll just do the spinny attack thing a second time, like that. Also, I don't know for sure, I think if you target them like that, then they actually disappear and won't come back out again, so you know what, I'm not going to talk that often during this episode. If I have something to say, I'll say it. One thing I do have to say is I don't know why after, I think it's 4 dungeons now, it's still telling us how to work out the map, how the map works. We know how it works now. But yeah, why not, you know, be quiet for a few minutes. It's not like, you know, you couldn't stand it or anything if you had to listen to the music, so excuse me, I really shouldn't be yawning at 10 to 5 in the afternoon here. Anyway, something that I suppose I did want to say is that I'm always amazed by the creativity of these things, these games. Something like this, or the Crash Bandicoot games, or any sort of a fantasy or science fiction, or any sort of game that isn't one set in sort of real life. our world at this time and therefore needs to obey certain rules. But anything with this level of creativity, I just wouldn't have thought of it, basically. So I'm always amazed at this level of innovation. Like, I would never have thought of saying, let's have ghosts hidden in paintings. If I had been in the planning, the planning room, the planning meeting for how the Forrest Temple should be at Nintendo headquarters or whatever, I wouldn't have said that because I just wouldn't have thought of it. So it's a good idea to get extra arrows if you can, especially for stuff like this, because you will be using a lot of arrows. Although sadly you can't kill all of the foes this way, which is a pity, because you get it. I was certainly getting the hang of it by now. For some reason the camera at this point seems to have changed to a really odd sort of angle. I'm not sure why. So I suppose there's not much point, but I might as well ask this. What do you want me to talk about whilst I'm doing these things? Whilst I'm doing these games in my commentary? Do you want me to concentrate on... do you want me to tell you who I am, for example? Is that something that you'd be interested in? My life? It's not something that I would imagine you'd be interested in because this isn't a blog, but I could do that to a greater extent if you want. Would you like me to talk about the more sort of technical things, like go on to the Zelda wiki and just read you stuff from that? Would you like me to have more Kima? Again, that's not something that I'd be particularly interested in, but you know, what do you want me to do for these times when I can't think of a lot? Now, you will be coming back here later, so remember how to get here. There is a little bit of backtracking in this dungeon, unfortunately. I didn't cut out this bit, I cut out an earlier bit. Speaking of cuts, again, I've also cut out the bits where I needed to go on to a strategy guide for a few seconds. For about half a second you might have been able to spot an advert for Mario 8 at the beginning of this Let's Play, and that's because that was an advert that came with the guide, the online guide. If you're looking at an online guide for some reason, despite the brilliant way that I'm explaining everything here, the Zelda Dungeon website is the best one. I don't know where I'm going. Today a lot. You'll notice here that 2 of the files have now been lit. So we've got 2 of the pose done. I quite like the outside as well. It's not just the inside of the Forrest Temple that I like. I like the exterior too. Got a very sort of gothic sense to it, with these high stone walls and all of these vines and everything. Maybe that's why I like it. I used to be a goth for a brief period. Don't judge me. Now sadly, despite doing that, it didn't last for long enough, and so I managed to get hurt anyway. Sorry. Man. I've just had quite a harrowing day so far. I think I used this to try to look at things rather than use the arrows that I will actually be firing to look at things. Did you see that? That's contrary to the laws of physics there. Anyway, I think I looked at it because sometimes I accidentally fire an arrow. It's quite hard because you need to remember to press the Z button, or at least for me it's the Z button, rather than pressing the button that you would normally press to get rid of something. Otherwise you fire it once and then it disappears. If you see what I mean. There's also an awful lot of gold sculptures on this dungeon. Although that's quite nice, I suppose. I don't have anything against it. I'm just commenting compared to the number that I've managed to get from outside the dungeons. There was a lot of them situated in this dungeon. With this, I could hear where it was, but it took me a while to work out where it was, and I eventually had to use the guide in order to find it. I think also cut out my self-saving, but that's not something you really need. This is another one that originally started out at 30 minutes long. And then I managed to cut it down by almost 10 minutes. Because when you're playing one of these, if you know you're going to cut out some bits, it's always hard trying to work out how much you should record. That, by the way, is, if I say so myself, a cool way to stop yourself from getting hurt if you fall down. As long as you get the timing right, you can use the sword jump to do that. Something that's always interested me about sort of castles and mansions like this is, why would anyone want to live in one? Seriously, unless you only live in a small number of rooms. Well, I suppose what I mean is, why would someone want to live in one now? They've never seemed very sort of cozy, really, to me. They're kind of show castles and mansions, but they've always looked like they would be kind of drafty and just cold and damp and unpleasant, really. Well, maybe not damp, I suppose, but yeah, they've always seemed like it would be an unpleasant place to live, because you're living in somewhere that's probably physically cold and also seems kind of emotionally cold as well. It doesn't have a sense of home about it, and I suppose someone needs to own these buildings. It seems to me that you'd have to work very hard to make any of the rooms seem like a modern home. Of course, back in the times when the castles were originally made, people lived in them because that was the fashion and that was the modern way to live, and it showed that you have lots of money, which I suppose might also be another reason to have one now. I couldn't quite decide which balcony to go on then. And of course you had lots of servants who needed somewhere to stay as well, so. You know, if I was rich, I wouldn't live in a castle or a mansion. I would probably buy the train from GoldenEye. I always thought the missile train from GoldenEye was cool. I would probably live somewhere quite similar to where I live now. It's flat because it's nice, maybe a slightly nicer, more expensive one than this, with a bit more room. See, this is one of the things where I can't decide if you want to know something about me or not, because why would you want to know this about me? This is a computer game. You know, it's not a blog. It's not the what would I do if I had £1,000,000,000 quiz. You know, it's supposed to be about computer games. In fact, it's supposed to be about this computer game. These things are annoying. It's very hard to get one of those things to hit them, because it usually goes either over their head or too much to the right or to the left. But over its head in particular is kind of a problem that you don't normally get with the Deku scrubs, but you get it with this. As you can see, it took me quite a while. Anyway, yeah, I would travel around in a missile train. I'm not even sure that you actually need to kill those things. I think you could probably get away with not killing them and not killing these Skulltulas either, but just running straight into the door. But never mind, it's done now. My hair is very long, it's annoying, it needs cutting. I was punching it, so I was scratching it a bit. Alright, I cut out some stuff here. You can basically see where I'm going. So I decided I might as well cut it out. So this door is at the top of the red pose. The place where you fought the red pose, I think. I'm 99% certain, and if not, it's at the top of the place where you defeated the other pose. So according to the guide, you need to do this quickly because the hand will come down on you if you don't do this fast enough. So I guess make sure you do that. More revenge sevenfolds. These you don't really need to kill either. In fact, there's probably quite a lot of enemies in this dungeon that you could get away without killing, to be honest, and just avoid them. I suppose it's just doesn't seem like the sort of game where you would. If this was a survival horror game, then yeah, but it's not. So if you have the resources to kill them, I suppose why not kill them? This is quite a tricky puzzle. I suppose you could go over there and use the Din's fire. I've never actually tried it, but it is a possibility. Now, for this, I used the saving power of the emulator a lot, which I've discussed before. I've done it because I've done it, and that's just the way it is. Perhaps it's right, perhaps it's wrong, I don't know, but I'm just telling you now, because you have to fire one of the arrows with the right timing and at the right place for it to hit the eye at the time when it will go through this fire. And that's kind of a Legolas from Lord of the Rings thing to do. It's hard to be a good enough archer in this game to do that. See how long it takes? Of course, as I say, I suck at this, but still. Also, why would someone design their house or temple, whatever it is, to have all of these traps in it? I mean, it's possible that these traps have been designed specifically to stop Link from being able to free the sages. It's possible that the Forrest Temple wasn't always like this, and it's just being redesigned by Ganondorf. I guess that's the most likely explanation. Alright, coming up in a minute is one of the most horrible puzzles in the game, so I think I'm just going to stop there. I will see you next time.